Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, it's the summertime. I am in a mood for a little bit of play and a little bit of fun. And that's really what the topic is, and the focus for the entire month of June is play. So let's talk about play in the workplace. And one we're going to simplify today is specifically how to gamify your sales strategy. So my special guest today, her name is Kimba Cooper. She's an innovative and creative entrepreneur who's been using gamification to improve results and meet her goals both personally and professionally. Now, as a consultant, she helps other businesses to apply gamification techniques to help boost their results for themselves and their customers. She's gamified her personal life as well, friends, and she's a sponsored hula hooper, which we're going to ask her a lot about in a little bit, that she's used gamification to outsell the other professional hoopers that she's competing with by 10x. And she's also gamifying how to help her read more, exercise more regularly, and find time to learn new skills. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Kimba Cooper. Hey, Kimba.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. That was a great intro. I'm very excited to talk to you today.
Brilliant. And, it's not very often that I get to meet a professional hula hooper. So let's just start there. How did you get into that? And how is this a thing for you?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so the honest truth of how I got into it was I had a bit of a bad relationship and I couldn't move out of the house that I was living in with him. So I started up a new hobby, which is a great way to focus your energy when you're in a bad situation. And that hobby was hula hooping. And I got so into it. It's like there's a whole world of hula hoopers out there. And I didn't realize at the time, but I used my gamification skills to outsell the other sponsored hula hoopers by 10 times, as you said in the beginning. So yeah, it's a fun way to meet new people, to get out of the house if you're stuck in the house for reasons you don't want to be. And yeah, to exercise too. So it's a bit of fun.
And here's what I know about actual real hula hoopers. Correct me if I'm wrong. The bigger the hoop, the better. The heavier, the better, right? Because when you use those winky little like kids hula hoops, I can do it for maybe like 2 seconds and then it drops. But is that the truth? Like you need bigger and heavier?
Oh, yeah. So when you first start out as an adult, I think everyone thinks, oh, I can just get one of those hoops from Poundland or like in the US Walmart,
a dollar
right?
store, yes.
A dollar store, right. So, and that will be fine. But the thing is, those hoops are designed for children. So as an adult, you need a hoop that's going to reach around between your hips and your waist if you have it touching the floor. And heavier is better. But then as you progress and get better at hooping, the hoops start to get smaller again, weirdly.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to simplify hula hooping, though I am so curious, and I really do actually want to dive down that side. But no, I'm going to stay on target. We're talking about gamification, and specifically if you are a business owner or, let's say you work in the sales department of a larger company and you're feeling a little stale in your sales strategy or just feeling like you're not hitting your numbers like you used to. I want to break that down. I want to simplify how to gamify your sales strategy. So let's start by defining what gamification is. Let's start there.
Okay, so this is one of those questions, and even gamification professionals, they change their mind on what a succinct idea of this is. So what I'll do is I'll give you a brief summary that hopefully will help you to understand it. So we've all played games of some description. Even if you don't play them now, you've played some as a kid. So maybe you've played hopscotch or tiddlywinks, or maybe you play a sport or watched a sport. There are things that are built into games, game elements they call them, that make you want to beat your opponent, get to the next level, to do things, to motivate you to do things that you might not necessarily want to do, boring things because you want to get that gold coin that gets you to the next level, whatever it is. And so what I do as a gamification consultant is I take those things that make games so compelling and I take them and I use them to help business owners to improve their courses, their launches, their memberships, their social media, so that they can get better results for them, but also the people that they're trying to engage with, because better results for them ultimately is going to result in more sales at the end of the day.
Well, and I know for a fact with myself, I mean, I've been a business owner for 18 years now. If it's not fun, I really get bored, and I don't get the thing done, and B, I flitter off to something that's new and shiny and different, that may or may not be a higher yielding task, like sales is, like doing busy work because it just looks fun and different, right?
Yeah, totally. 100%. And I mean, so many things that are really boring, you can gamify really simply. So for me, I really, really don't like email. I cannot stand it. So the only way I can get it done is to gamify it. So I'll say one day, I'll see how long it takes me to do how many emails I can get done in 10 minutes. And then the next day I try and beat that. And the next day I try and beat that. And what happens is I become more efficient at it. I only actually have to spend 10 minutes doing my emails, and it makes you focus on the things that are really important. And at the end of the week, you've done all these emails that you wouldn't have done otherwise. You have a sense of achievement, and people actually get responded to, which is a winner.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't imagine, raise your hand. No one's looking. If you're out there, you have more than 500, 1,000 unread emails in your inbox. Like, there's no shame there. And, that may be a way to kind of chip away at what's sitting in your inbox that, really needs to be addressed. So let's shift gears over to sales. Like, why would it help my team or I sell our products and services in the long run?
So let's go with the hula hooping example, because it's a good way of simplifying it. And I think it's very common for people to think, oh, gamification, I have to build a big 3D virtual game environment, or I have to put in all these levels and badges and points and things. Gamification can be really simple. So let's give you a simple example. It is the Simplifiers podcast, after all.
Yeah.
So when I was sponsored first by this hula hoop company, I wasn't thinking, how can I make sales? I was kind of thinking, how can I make new friends? And the hula hoop world is much bigger than you think. So what I would do is, whilst I was training, so practicing tricks, things like that, I would also record myself, video myself. And so I'm kind of batching content and using my time twice. And anytime I get a good run of a few tricks or whatever, then I can edit that and then I can keep it for later.
Yeah.
And in the hula hoop world, to keep motivated, they play games. Okay. So one of the games is called Stop, Drop and Spin. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a very simple game. You record yourself doing some hula hooping, you post it on Instagram, and you nominate two people to stop, drop and spin. So stop what they're doing, stop where they are, drop what they're doing, and spin the hoop. So they then record a video, they tag you back and thank you for nominating them, and then they tag two more people. But what I would do is I would go into the biggest Facebook communities full of hula hoopers, one of which at the time had over 20,000 people in it. And I'd say, hey, I'm about to go and play Stop, Drop and Spin. Who wants to play with me? Mm-hmm. Drop your handle below, your account name, and follow me on Instagram. So on those nights, I would batch that content, I would put those videos out, and I would tag different people on every video. My followers would go up hugely on those nights, but also by virtue of people seeing me doing what I do, they would ask me the questions. Where did you get that hula hoop from? What size is it? What is it made from? All those kind of things, which was my in to make sales. So I'm making friends, I'm growing my community, I'm having a great time, and I'm training. And I'm making sales just by virtue of playing a game. So it can be as simple as something as that, that I started doing for fun and thinking, how can I turn this fun thing into sales?
And so on that, it's such a brilliant idea, because it gets my little hamster in my brain whirling over here of, if anyone's listening that has membership communities, right? Mm-hmm. How do you engage those people, and how do you get them actually communicating as a two-way conversation rather than you just blasting out to them to crickets, right? So give us some pointers and specifics. Were you doing it at the same time every day? Did you schedule it in? How do you keep it fresh for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when I was doing it, I didn't know it was gamification. I was just doing it because it was fun. I wasn't doing it to make money particularly. It was just a kind of on the side. Yeah. So I was doing it without any strategy. It was completely ad hoc. If I was to do it now, that would be completely different. So I wouldn't just be playing Stop, Drop and Spin. I would be coming up with my own games that showcased my business, my whatever it was I was doing. I would be using it to re-engage existing customers. So I would be tagging other people who'd bought hula hoops from the company I'd worked from, and create a game that got them to show off their skills and their hoops and get them to promote my code as well, so that they could make sales on my behalf. There's so many things you can be doing, but remember, you have to bring it back to your business if you can. So just games for the sake of it are a little bit pointless. And yes, I could be doing it at the same time every day, but the hula hoop community is all over the world. And I'm based in the UK, but there's a big community in America. So it kind of made sense for me to mix that up a little bit.
Yeah. And it also makes me think, and correct me if I'm wrong, when it comes to using games to connect and engage with your customers or prospective customers, there has to be something in it for them as well, right? They're understanding the why that they want to take part and participate. Can you talk more into that?
So I think there's a couple of things there. So in terms of the why, you need to know why you're doing it. So to start with, I was just doing it to have fun, but I quickly realized my actual business objective was to make sales. So, if you know what your business objective is, so it could be to get more people to complete your course. It could be to reduce attrition in your membership. It could be to increase engagement on your social media, to increase your social media following. Knowing your why, your objective is really, really important, but also understanding what they're going to go out of it. Exactly what you just said is so important. You cannot underestimate the importance of understanding who it is that you are engaging with, and what you assume their reason is for doing something is not necessarily the actual reason. Everybody's different. Everyone has different personality types. In my work, I focus on player types, but there's lots of different personality distinctions. You can look at DISC or whatever works for you. Different people are motivated by different things. Different people are interested in different things, and different people want different things. So you might think somebody's joining your course to learn what you teach, but actually they might be on your course because they want to network with other people who can afford your course. They might be on your course because they want to learn how you run a course. They might be on a course because they want to get to know you better. There's lots of different reasons why people might be wanting to engage with your gamified project, whatever it is. And you need to make sure that you hit the mark on all of those things so that you can engage more people as well as hitting your business objectives.
So smart. So define some ways where, or strategies that you should not gamify in your business. Like, I know consent is essential and all that, but what things should you not gamify in your opinion?
I think, so let's talk about the consent thing first. That's a biggie. So I think a big mistake a lot of businesses make when they try and gamify stuff is they're like, I'm going to put fun into this and people are going to do it whether I like it or not. So I'm going to gamify. Like, I don't personally work in gamifying internally within a business, but a lot of businesses start there. So they'll try and engage their employees through gamification to, I don't know, hit certain sales targets, for example. But enforced gamification will not work. One of the main things that you want to make sure is that they are taking part voluntarily. Like in any game situation, if you sit somebody down and say, you must play Monopoly, they're not going to play Monopoly.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to want to play with you. And if you force them, they're going to play it grumpily and they're not going to want to play it again. And you want those people to come back for more. You want them to play more of your games. Definitely. And I think things that people don't do that they should do in terms of gamification are things that I've kind of already covered a little bit. So making sure they know why they're doing it, making sure they know who they want to be involved in, understanding those people better. Also, not everything necessarily needs to be gamified. And I am saying that as a gamification expert. Like, think about, there's certain things in life that just shouldn't be fun. Okay, like there's certain industries, and I'm going to pull something out of the air, but like funerals, for example, running a funeral service is not something you should probably be gamifying. Let's be honest. Okay, there's going to be certain industries that this is not going to work for. Having said that, I'm going to add a caveat here. If you think, I can't gamify this because my business isn't fun, or I'm not a fun person, the amount of people who've said to me, I'm quite boring, I like being a pessimist, gamification isn't going to work for me. Thing is, not all gamification elements are fun. Some game elements that could be considered to be negative are things like scarcity. So there are only this many hours left to buy this course, or there are only there's only 99 products left of this one to buy. Those are used successfully by lots of businesses. They're not fun. They're quite boring, but they do work.
Interesting. Yeah, it made me kind of think about I want to go back to what you said about enforced gamification, and especially for trying to motivate internally your employees to do something. You're absolutely spot on there. So there has to be consent from both sides. But then I also wonder if there's a bit of exhaustion, if everything feels like a game, if everything feels like, oh God, do I have to hit another mark? I just want to get the job done, right? That's potentially, a risk that you run if you try to make everything fun, right?
Oh yeah, so the best gamification, you don't know you're playing it. Like you can get people to opt in to taking part, and then when they're taking part, they don't even realize they're taking part. And I think not everybody, and this goes back to like different personalities and different player types. If you're just putting a leaderboard in and incentivizing everyone with goals, not everyone likes competition.
Right.
Some people like collaboration. So it's really important to have different elements for those different personality types, because you are going to switch people off pretty quickly if you get it wrong and if you are overdoing it. And that's the other thing, a big gamification, like an important part of gamification that people, like anyone listening to this, can input into anything they're doing right now is novelty. But novelty all the time, constantly changing things all the time, like you say, is way too much. So like consider anything that you're doing now and think about how you can make it a little bit more interesting, but don't try and put everything in all at once, because it's going to be way too much and overwhelming, and people will back off and they will disengage.
Yeah. It makes me think of kind of like the 80-20 rule. Maybe it's the sprinkle of the 20% that adds a little bit of fun rather than chaos theory and just throw everything out and make it all crazy. So it makes me also wonder, one of the pitfalls, or at least what I heard and what you said there, is talking about player types, like pitfalls that you should avoid in the gamification strategy. Tell us more about how do we craft and document kind of our different player types and their motivations.
Oh, okay. So I'll talk you through something that is called Bartle's player types.
Okay.
So Bartle, he put together 4 main player types, and this is for games rather than gamification, but you can apply it to gamification. And after that, he split them into 16. But I'm going to tell you the main 4 because they're very interesting. And straight away, you'll think, oh, I'm mostly that one. Now, you're not going to definitely be 100% one. You'll be a bit of all of them. But anyway, so we'll go with number 1, which is an achiever. So an achiever is somebody who's going to like leaderboards. They're going to like getting all the badges. They're going to like ticking off all the goals. They're the person who is motivated by achievement. You've got a socializer who doesn't really care about getting all the badges, doesn't really care about reaching all the goals. They're there to like schmooze and network and like make sure that they can help other people and have a nice time. Then you've got your explorers. These are people who will come into whatever environment it is and they will have a look around. They want to find the hidden things, those little Easter eggs, things that are only found by the people that really look for them. They're going to be the people who find your grammar mistakes in your copy. They are the people who are going to come back to the group and be like, oh my gosh, did you find this thing on page 5? If you click on it, it takes you to another thing, which was hidden. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And then you've got the 4th type, which sounds really negative, but it's not. It's just a personality type. They're the killers. Okay, so in a game environment, they're quite important. They're quite similar to your achievers. They want to get to the next level. They want to get to the top of the leaderboard, but they have an additional need. They want to do so at the expense of someone else. Okay, so they want to be at the top of the leaderboard, not because they want to be there, but because they don't want someone else to get to the top. They will go and get to the next level in the hopes of not getting someone else in there. Now, they tend to be the smallest player type. They tend to be the least, like about 5 to 20% in any environment, but you still have to design your game for those kinds of people as well. So when you're designing, what people tend to do with anything, even if they're just designing a social media post in a gamified way, is they design it for themselves because they know themselves really well. So I'm an achiever. Like, I am motivated by achievement 100%. So I would naturally design things from an achiever perspective. So leaderboards and badges and all that kind of stuff. But leaderboards can actually put some people off. So they can see that the top 10 people have got 1,000 points and they've got 1 point. They're never going to get on that leaderboard. So they might as well just stop trying. It's demotivating. It's the opposite of what you think. So what you need to do is make sure that you account for those other player types. Now, obviously, this is just one way of categorizing people, and you might be more than one of those player types. But you also have to think about, like I said before, if you're the kind of person who uses disc profiling, consider all those different personality types as well when you're designing your game. Don't just design for yourself. It's a big mistake that people make, and it's perfectly normal, because why wouldn't you design for yourself?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And side note, anyone that's listening to us right now, everything that Kimba talks about will be included in the show notes. So if you go over to the simplifierspodcast.com, you can find all of this there, including those 4 types that she described. I love it. I think about myself. I think I'm a mix between the socializer and the achiever, who doesn't love a good gold star every now and again. But, I also like community and meeting up with other people. But you're so smart in realizing that this translates in gamification. And how do we translate this into our customer buying journey, right? So like, what specifically helps us lock in sales, hit our revenue numbers, and boost engagement in the sales cycle? Give us some examples there.
Okay, so there's so many things that I can talk about here, and I'm very conscious of time, but yes, I will go through a few different things. So some of the things that we've done, and bear in mind, I have just come from, I ran a social media agency, and then I was teaching about Instagram. So one of the things that we did regularly was run, and you'll see these everywhere, free 5-day challenges about Instagram. Yeah. And a challenge in and of itself is gamification, because of the daily tasks and the accountability and lots of other game elements involved. But we would add in additional things to make that even more successful. So things like competitions for the most people referred in, competitions for the highest engaged. We introduced bingo to try and improve the kinds of behaviors we wanted to see in those challenges. We added in loads of different types of game elements for the different types of players. So, obviously the achievers are going to respond to the leaderboards that we put in, but the socializers are probably going to like the bingo, because included in the bingo are things like go and introduce yourself to someone else in the group that you haven't spoken to before, things like that. And what we found was that our conversion rate increased from the previous challenges where we hadn't really gamified them to those challenges where we'd added in loads more game elements for the different types of personalities, from 1.1% to 2.9%, which doesn't sound like much, but I think that's an increase of over 120% when you think about it. And when you're thinking of selling courses that are thousands of pounds, a 1 or 2% increase is actually quite a big financial difference. So if you're like, I'm not selling courses, I'm not doing things like that. Something else that we did was we ran a live event. So some people would think of this as like a conference, I guess, like an online conference. But we kind of ran it in a mixed way. So it was also kind of like a challenge. There was daily tasks. There were lots of different events, hidden events as well, that you could only get access to if you achieve certain things. Hidden events are great for the explorers. And we also added in a little bit of novelty and a little bit of mystery in that. So normally what you would do is you would give people a prize if, you pick them at random if they did all of the daily tasks, for example. But we wanted to give people motivation to show up every day and just do that day's task. It didn't matter if you'd done any of the ones before. So every day they had a chance to win a prize, and they didn't know what the prize was going to be, because we had something which we called our snazzy Prezi picker, which
I love that.
It's going to be hard to describe over podcast, but I'm going to go for it. So basically we had a visual that we could put on the screen, which had 10 presents on the screen. And when I hovered over them with my mouse, they wiggled at you. And each day we would say, we've picked somebody today because they were really helpful in the group or whatever. This is their name. if you're live, tell us which number you want, which prize you want. They'd tell me, and I would click on the prize and it would open live. Those prizes don't have to be really high value. They don't have to be amazing, because the experience, the fun, the gamification of it is the mystery, the novelty, the fact that they can see it live. And all of those things, they're just little tiny things. They didn't really cost us anything to put in. In fact, I think some of the prizes, it was a Christmas time. Mm-hmm. So some of the prizes were like an elf badge or like a Christmas pen. Like they were, Christmas raffle style prizes. But they made a big difference to all of the different player types, mm-hmm. rather than just you're going to win a £100 voucher. Like not everybody wants that.
Yeah. And, that makes me think about an episode we did last season, episode 168, how to understand what your customer wants. Behavioral economics, Melina Palmer talks specifically about this. What gets people excited when they actually go and put something into their cart and purchase a product or service of yours. It's actually the point where they put it in the cart. It's not actually the point where they receive it. It's not even the point where they give the money. So it's, you think about these elements of gamification, like what gets people excited. And I can imagine people sitting in that audience, either in person or online, and going, oh, which box is going to have the box? Do I pick that number or this number? That's my daughter's birthday. I'm going to pick that number, whatever it is, right?
They loved it. And it meant that more people showed up live to those live events. So when I had important things to say, they were excited to show up live. They wanted to know if they were going to win. They wanted to see what the prizes were. They were excited. And so, really consider what little tweaks you can make for the different personality types to get them excited, because it's going to increase your conversion rates when it comes to selling in person and online. Like you could do these things in a real life conference scenario.
Yeah.
And, if you can add those things in whilst you're delivering a service as well, then it's going to increase the amount of testimonials you'll get and things like that. So you'll be able to make more sales too.
Yeah. Well, and also, again, like there's so much noise out there. There's so much that people could be consuming on social media or Instagram or otherwise, that this is a way of differentiating yourself from everyone else as well, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like stop the scroll is such a hard thing. Everybody's putting content out there. Everyone's trying to get your attention at all times. And if you can be trying to play games with your audience in a way that they'll want to interact with, you're going to get a much better response. And increasing that engagement is going to lead to increased sales, because by virtue of getting engagement, that platform will show your content to more people.
And so I hope that while you're listening at home or wherever you are in the world right now, the wheels are starting to churn. Your little hamster is starting to go around and thinking about where games, contests, giveaways, things like that could be interjected into your marketing message, right? Into maybe even the proposal itself. I mean, is there any thoughts or ideas of, again, like making the sales process fun for your customer, but also fun for you too?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many different tools and apps and things you can use. So something, and I can't remember the name of the app. I think that my team actually built it, to be honest with you, but you can get free versions of these kinds of things. We built a little bot to ask our clients questions. So instead of them filling in a Google form and typing it in, the bot will ask them a question and then it will lead to the next question. So it's a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more interactive. Yeah. And it just changes it up, because you spend all day sitting at a computer typing things.
Yes.
How can you make it a bit more interactive and a bit more fun? And if they don't want to do it like that, they can just message us and we'll do it through email if that's their preference.
Yeah. Well, let's think about who out in the world that really inspires you. Who do you feel is doing gamification really well out in the world? Maybe a larger brand or a client of yours that you see are getting it right.
So the best example, and the one that is most recognized, that I love to talk about, is Duolingo. So for those of you who don't know, Duolingo are a massive language learning app, and people are addicted to that app. Oh my goodness me. Like whenever I speak about this, people are like, yeah, I'm addicted, because they use game elements to help you to learn more. So things like, one of my friends, I think she had a 300-day streak. So she logged into the app every day to do her lessons for 300 days. And then I think she was poorly. And so she couldn't do it for a day, and she woke up the next day and she was mortified because she was back to zero and she had to start her streak all over again. But Duolingo does lots of things. It uses loads and loads of different game elements to keep people involved. And I think it has something like over 500,000 or 500 million, a lot basically, of active users that use their platform every single day because they're using gamification right. And if you're like, oh, I'm not sure, I'd like to learn a bit more, like go and have a look. It's really worthwhile investigating it, even if you're not interested in learning languages, because you can learn so much about good gamification application.
I love it. Again, all these things can be found in the show notes for you guys if you're curious. And you also have a free quiz to offer to our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's really quick, which is always the best way. So you can do it when you're having a tea break or a coffee break. You can do it in 3 minutes. So if you've ever wondered if you can get better results from your courses, your memberships, your social media in terms of things like engagement, then it's a good quiz to take. Like I said, it's just a handful of questions. And then at the end, you get a report which tells you some tips and tricks for how to improve in those particular areas that you're finding challenging in your business right now.
Excellent. Well, that link is thegameplanquiz.com, or again, you can find it in the show notes over the simplifierspodcast.com. So if what Kimba's talking about is, intriguing you and you're thinking, well, maybe this is something that we could interject into this quarter's sales strategy, I highly recommend going over to her website and just check it out and see what's out there. She's got a plethora of ideas and services available. It's kimbadigital.com. And again, the link's in the show notes, so you can find her there. So Kimba, as we wrap up, there's a few questions I like to ask everyone that comes onto the podcast. And again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us today. So my first question for you is this. Tell us, what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
So the book that I always recommend, no matter who asks, whether they're in business or not, is Profit First by Mike. I'm going to say his name wrong, almost certainly. Michalowicz, I think you say. I know that it'll be in the show notes, thankfully. So this is a great book in terms of, how do I describe this? It basically has a very simple method of bookkeeping, which you can apply to your business or your life. And it's going to help you to revolutionize your business finances. It is something that I recommend to everybody. It's not a difficult book to read, but it is a very, very important book to read.
I can't agree with you more. I think it's in the bookshelf right behind me, actually. Yes, it's such a good read, especially if you're a small business owner and you want to simplify and streamline how you pay yourself and how you run your business finances, 100%. Well, that link will be in the show notes for you guys. So tell us, who's one person, somebody you know personally in your network that you just feel is up to brilliant things, and we could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
So I want to talk about my friend, Abby Friedman-Peretz. So Abby has an amazing business called Successful Freelance Mum. And her business is all about helping mums to start working for themselves and earning money for themselves, specifically writing for money. So Abby's an absolutely sensational copywriter. I would recommend her 100% to anybody. But she's using her skills to help other mums. She's just such a fantastic human being, and I definitely recommend you go and check her out if you can. Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll link her up in the show notes if you guys are curious about her as well. Now, one app that you had mentioned to me offline that I want to make sure we cover because I think it's really important, wheelofnames.com. What is that?
So one of the things that we often do is that if there's a competition we're running and the winner could be anybody, so it's not based on achieving a certain number of this, that, and the other. It's just by taking part. Rather than just using a random name picker or picking a name out of a hat, we like to use a visual tool. And this is a free tool, wheelofnames.com. You put in all of the names, you can change the colors on it, and it is literally just an amazing wheel. You click on it and it picks a winner for you. You can have it full screen, you can use it on your lives, you can use it pre-recorded. Yeah, it's just an amazing free tool, and I think anyone considering using gamification in their socials or in their live streams should be using it.
So that's like if you have a raffle and you've got 20 people in the names and you put their names in each of the parts of the wheel and you spin the wheel, right? And it's like, oh, Holly, you've won the blah, 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 right?
Yeah, exactly that. But you don't even have to put them in all the individual spaces. You just pop the list into a box
and then it does
it for you.
So clever. So clever. So there you go. If you've been curious about, I've seen that with other people using that. There it is, wheelofnames.com. So I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, today specifically, probably my health, to be honest with you. I think, I've had COVID twice. And like, I'm starting to feel myself again after the second bout. And I think being able to exercise again and being able to be myself again and being able to show up and just, I don't know. Yeah, health is definitely one. And I don't think that's too small a thing to be grateful for.
I'm sure a lot of us, including myself, feel that same way over especially the last couple of years. So Kimba, people can find you on social media at Kimba Digital. Is there one place in particular you hang out the more than others?
I spend most of my time on Facebook and Instagram, to be honest with you. We're also starting up a free Facebook group for people to learn about gamification. And of course, I'm not going to run it like everyone else. I'm going to gamify it. It's not open yet, but you can join if you want to. It's the Business Game is the name of it. So
excellent. Well, again, links are in the show notes for you guys at thesimplifierspodcast.com. So Kimba, my final question for you is this, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I think this is really such important work, and it just makes things a little bit fresh, changes the energy, especially if things feel a little stale or boring or exhausting in your business. Definitely go check out Kimba and the work that she's doing in the world. So someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and they're thinking, yeah, that sounds good, but I've got zero time to do any of this. And they're feeling a little bit defeated. What's one thing you could whisper in their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
Oh, this is a great question. I think don't overthink it. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Don't worry about creating lots of tech and all of this kind of stuff. Just take the time to understand your audience a little better and start from there.
Brilliant. Kimba, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's been great fun. Thank you so much.